everyone. Welcome to this week's Fireside Creators. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sherry Pallas. This week's show is on human design, and we literally have a panel that wrote the book on it. Thank you for joining us, and I am looking forward to all of your comments and questions. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe. If you are on Facebook, grant StreamYard access so we can see your name when you have a comment or a question. Please remember to keep all the comments and questions related to the show topic and that this is a safe space. I want to give a shout out to our top sponsors, Ruth, Kirsten, Michelle, Ray, and Heidi. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support more than you know. And thank you for welcoming us into your home and joining the conversation. I appreciate all of you. I am thrilled to share that I will be doing a live show at the Wild Goose Festival this July 13th through the 16th. As one of my followers, you get a 50%, or I'm sorry, they would kill me. A $50 off the price of an adult weekend ticket at the Wild Goose Festival this year. Simply use my name for the discount code. The Wild Goose Festival is a transformational community grounded in faith-inspired social justice. It's a one-of-a-kind gathering that brings together activists, artists, and seekers from all walks of life to explore justice, art, spirituality, and community. The festival is at Van Hoy Farms in Union Grove, North Carolina, and I would love for you to join me there. From engaging workshops to inspiring panels and interactive experiences, the Wild Goose has something for everyone. So mark your calendars and be a part of the incredible community that is committed to making a positive impact in the world. For more information, go to thewildgoosefestival.org, and I would love to see you there. So do it. I want to see you there. Okay, let's meet our guests and get smarter. Aycee Brown is a psychic channel, thought leader, and voice of truth. Through spiritual guidance, she offers tools that inspire and motivate others to look at all parts of themselves so that they can develop the awareness to heal and show up in their lives fully. Welcome, Aycee.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. So glad you're here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Next, we have Asha D. Oh, God, I forgot to ask her how her last name was spelled.
Ramakrishna.
Thank you. She wrote the #1 bestseller, The Priestess Code, Awakening the Modern Woman. With a background in molecular biology and business development, she breaks esoteric teachings into practical, logical approaches. Asha is a minister of spiritual peacemaking and incorporates Feng Shui, karma healing, human design philosophies. And she founded the Dharma School, Modern Priestesses School, and Sacred Commerce Program. Welcome, Asha. How are you?
Hi. Hello.
Thank you so much for having this conversation. Yeah. So I discovered this topic through Asha's post on Facebook. The post was on Vedic astrology, and it piqued my interest. After chatting with Asha, she agreed to be on the show to teach us all about Vedic astrology and how it links with human design. I must admit, I know nothing about either subject. So this week, I am as much of a student as most of the audience probably is. Asha and Aycee, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. Okay, what is Vedic astrology?
Yeah, so it's funny that was the beginning of you tapping into what is this big body of work that Aycee and I have been in devotion to. But let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
So let's start with human design. So human design, which is what we're going to be talking about, and then I'll talk about Vedic astrology. Is that okay?
That's fine.
So human design is a synthesis of Eastern and Western astrology. So Eastern being Vedic and Western being tropical astrology.
Okay.
quantum mechanics, the Hindu chakra system,
Interesting.
the Judaic Kabbalah. What else am I missing, Aycee? I have them.
So, yeah, you have them all.
And so Aycee and I have been like dedicated to human design for over a couple of decades, at least me 17 years.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, Vedic astrology has been something that I've just recently been deepening in. And so Vedic astrology is the astrology that's used or that has been studied in India, in Hinduism, and it incorporates so many more elements than tropical astrology. So tropical astrology is the typical 12 constellations with the houses and the constellations, and Vedic astrology incorporates that, but it actually tracks the placement of the planets on how we see them from planet Earth. So
Okay.
this past full moon that we had, everybody was saying that it was a full moon in Libra. Well, in Vedic astrology, it was actually a full moon in Virgo.
Okay.
So we then, many of us are like, well, what do we do with that information?
Yeah.
So one of the things that Aycee and I have been exploring, and because it's of my lineage, I was like, okay, I need to actually go deeper in this thing. And so what we've been exploring is that a lot of people who tap into or who resonate with Vedic astrology really feel that there's an exactness of Vedic versus tropical. And my sense is that people are seeing it that way because in Vedic astrology, you're not just looking at the constellation, you're also looking at the stars within the constellations. So if you look at even Orion, right, like the Orion belt, the 3 stars, each of those stars has an energetics about it. And I think that's probably why people feel such an exactness with Vedic astrology. And the way that Aycee and I are talk about incorporating both, because people are like, well, what do I do? Do I do Vedic? Do I do tropical? And where we've come, where we're landed in this moment, maybe it'll change. But right now, we feel that Vedic astrology relates more to how we feel inside. So what resonates internally, and tropical is more of the way that the world receives us. Would you add anything else, Aycee?
Okay.
Yeah, just more of how you feel inside and how the world responds to you would be for tropical. So the world responds to you in your tropical, and in the Vedic is how you feel inside emotionally. I would even also say sometimes energetically as well.
So in my studies, the Vedas are the oldest divinical text.
Yes.
And I mean, such wisdom. So does the Vedic astrology predate what you're referring to as the tropical? Or are they aligned?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a historian, but I will say that the Vedic astrology aligns to the Vedas. The Vedas actually are, in many ways, observations, right? Observations of the planets, observations of the stars, observations of nature, and how all those observations get like synthesized into philosophies, right?
Yeah.
So Vedic astrology is very, very related to the Vedas. Yeah. In fact, when we look at the 7 stars of the Ursa Major, they are believed to those stars are believed to be the rishis that that started the Vedas.
So how does this apply to people's lives, and what can they do with this information?
With human design in general, or
well, I mean, if we're still on Vedic astrology, sure, or human design. Again, I'm a complete ignorant to all of this, so I'd love to see how I can apply this. When I was doing some research on it, very minimal. I saw charts being made. I saw those types of things like astrology is done. Is it the same type of process?
It's similar. The north and south of India have different ways of approaching a reading, and but it is a little bit different, because again, we look at the constellations, we look at the houses, but then we also look at those nakrashas, the stars, the individual stars, and this is the way that I approach everything. Okay, so it's like if we say, well, how do we use Vedic? How do we use tropical? How do we use human design or any other thing? The way that I see it is that anytime that we tap into a meta system, like a system that is complete in and of itself, and it can even be like the Enneagram, right? Mm-hmm. When you tap into a system that is complete and that touches or tries to touch every aspect, we position ourselves. We find ourselves in that meta system. Mm-hmm. And in the finding ourselves, we kind of tap back into that Kemetic philosophy of know thyself. Yeah. And so it's like, it's a way of knowing ourselves. Like, that's the beauty of these systems. It's like, the more that we know ourselves, the more that we find our placement in this world.
I love that. I love that. I mean, and that really is what astrology is, right? Trying to find some secrets, finding out more about yourself. So how does...
I'm sorry. I was going to say, you can use it to find out more information about yourself, but also it's a healing tool, and it also helps you fill in the gaps of your story. Yeah. Many of us come into these points in our healing journeys or just our self-awareness journeys, and we're trying to put the pieces together. And what astrology can do, and human design, is it can help you fill in those blanks.
Yeah, it was actually a joke with my friends because I have broken my left foot, every bone in it. I mean, I can't even count how many times I've broken my left foot. And my mom blamed it on having a tattoo on that side of my body. So that was the devil doing that. And then I found out through astrology that my sign aligns with the left foot. And that it was like, that's why. I mean, it was such a weird realization, and that aligned with my astrological signs, but it was like never my right foot, never anything else. I've broken that foot so many times, it's a joke. So just discovering those little things, I always thought were cool. So tell me about human design. How does that work into all of this, or how does the Vedic astrology land into human design, and what exactly is human design?
You want to start us?
Yeah, so I like to say, or a phrase that I've kind of coined over the years is, if you are building a piece of IKEA furniture, because everybody's built something from IKEA. If you haven't, you're missing out. The finished piece of IKEA furniture is your natal chart or your astrology chart, and human design is the little instruction booklet. So your natal chart is the who, what, where, why, and human design is how. So that's the easiest way. So, your natal chart is what is, what will be, what can be through transits and things of that nature. Human design is how you execute those things. So, for instance, if you in your your natal chart were supposed to have an event happen at a certain age, based off of whole sign and time lords, then your human design would be how you execute it.
Okay, do you have an example of that?
So for instance, this year in whole sign astrology, or Hellenistic astrology, which is another thing, but let's just say whole sign, each house represents a time in your life based off of your age. So the 7th house represents relationships, partnerships, or marriage. and they go from age, I believe, 18 to 30 to 42, and then up that way. So the seventh house, let's say when you're 18, you meet your college sweetheart during that time. And so depending on what your aura type is, for instance, for me, I'm a projector. So that means I'm here to wait for the invitation or wait to be invited. That invitation for me to get into that relationship might happen during that time, or a partnership might happen, or something of that nature.
So it
That's
gives
a
you
little
things.
bit more technical. I'm
So
sorry.
it gives you things to look for.
Look for, yes. And also, I would say yes and no, because it's not really about looking for anything. It's about allowing things to happen. And with
Oh,
human
okay.
design, it gives you your own playbook on how to respond to life.
Yeah.
So you're not forcing anything.
Oh, I love that. I love being in the flow. That's my whole.
Yes, that's what it's really about, being in the flow.
And one of the things that I've always said is that I just love how practical human design is. I love how it really drops people into that ease when they practice, that ease of decision making, because there are different aura types or different human design types, right? So AC described hers, which is a projector. They are kind of the sages of our communities. They are the ones that are here to kind of lead and guide us. And but because their energetics is so precious, we need to be ready to ask them for that advice, right? And they, in their own energetics, is so precious that it's the most correct for them to not be looking for who do I talk to, but more to be like, okay, I'm sitting here waiting for you to come ask me the things that you need to ask me. So that's why it's the invitation. So that's one type.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how many types are there?
There are five. So there are generators and manifesting generators. There are projectors, then there are manifestors, and then they are reflectors.
Okay. So now I'm all curious. I want mine done. How would someone even start to get into this, or figure out who they are and where they align and which one they go into and all of that?
Yeah.
So you need, of course, your birth time and your birth date and your birth month,
Okay.
and year and all of that. So the difference, because people sometimes are saying, oh, I don't know my birth time. So versus astrology, you really need to know your birth time for one of the main factors in astrology, which is your rising sign.
Mhm.
So because the rising sign changes every 2 hours. So without your rising sign, it's going to be really, I mean, without your birth time, it's going to be really challenging to figure out your rising sign in astrology. In human design, your birth time is still very important. However, the aura types don't change that much. There are some days that are split, that are half of the day is projector, half of the day is reflector, or
Hmm.
half of the day
Okay.
is generator. It's very rare. So if you don't have your birth time with human design, you can still figure it out. And I just go, when people don't have it, I just go in like 2 hour increments and go throughout the day to make sure that no main things change, like your aura type, or what we call in human design a profile. So, but if that doesn't really change, then you can at least have that as a baseline of your aura type and your profile.
Okay. So I know you guys have a book out. In fact, I want to show it to the audience.
Thank you.
It is available on Amazon.
It is.
So how would, if people's interests are peaked like mine was, what would be the first thing that they would do to get into this type of thing? Go read your book. Is there some type of, someone mentioned a generator? What is the first step to doing this?
I would say for sure the first thing is figure out what your chart is, right? And you can go, there are some websites that have it available, humandesignamerica.com, geneticmatrix.com. They have it. I think we will soon have it in our website, but not yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you go there and you put in your birth information, and then you have your chart. And then
Okay.
once you have your chart, it'll tell you what aura type. It'll tell you a lot of different information, but I would say the baseline is practicing what your strategy is. So we talked about Aycee's strategy as being a projector, which is waiting to be invited, right? So the strategies for the manifester is that person that just has to like go and make the thing happen depending on what circuitry they have. Maybe it's when they feel like it or when the inspiration arises, and they just go and do the thing. So it takes a lot of courage, and it takes like not second guessing, right? Because they are here to be the initiators in our communities.
Okay.
And then the generator and manifesting generator, we operate based on our sacral sound. We have, I call it like kind of like our womb. The hara is the theme, the hum that really directs our life. I think it's for everybody, but there's something unique with the generators and the manifesting generators. And that is by us saying yes or saying no to things. And there's a certain sound that I guess we've sort of incorporated into human design, and it's the yes of and the no of And so even those sounds, like when you even think of that, it's more guttural, it's more about a feeling. It's like a gut feeling versus like an analysis, like, oh yes, oh no. It's really more rooted, and why the sound, as it's a more primal part of ourselves, is what we tap into. And so for those people who are generators or manifesting generators, you would want to ask them yes or no questions, right?
Okay.
And like close your eyes so you're not like thinking, but really tapping into your truth. And it sounds like it would be easy, but I think you can kind of imagine, right, that for many of us who our voices and our truth have been shut down, actually the mind, the analysis is what really gets in the way for us to tap into like what's really authentic and truthful and passion for us. Yeah.
The mind creates so much doubt. So if you know that you're supposed to trust yourself, I would imagine some of that would be alleviated, right?
Yeah, and we often talk about how deconditioning, this is a word that we use a lot in human design, that we spend a lot of time deconditioning so that we can land into the way in which we're meant to make decisions. And it takes a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me, it was at least 7 years of me practicing the strategy of saying yes. I mean, I was trained as a scientist. Like I was trained to give value to my mind. And I'm not saying that the mind isn't something of value and something that can help and contribute, but certainly not run the show. Yeah. And then the last one that we have is the reflector. So I have a daughter who's a reflector. It seems as though there's not a lot of them. And she was the one that got me, like, had me on my knees asking 17 years ago, I don't know what to do with this kid.
Mhm.
So somebody said 17 years ago, have you tried human design? I was like, no, but bring it, like at this point, right? But reflectors are here to be kind of the compass of communities. And yeah, it's really fascinating. If you're lucky enough to have a reflector in your life, it's so key to see how are they doing. Because if they're doing well, the community that's around them is like there is a community established in wellness. And if they're not doing well, then we actually need to be looking at who and what is around them versus like them, you know?
Oh,
And
wow.
this strategy, which is unique and counter to our world, is to go through a lunar cycle. So to make decisions, which you can imagine, right? Like here's a job offer. Oh, and most people want you to like tell them within a week or 2 weeks that you're going to accept or not. And this person actually somehow has to negotiate a lunar cycle.
Oh, wow.
So those are the types.
And then to be a parent of someone who does that really must have been challenging.
Sorry. There was a question that came through in the comments, and this is someone said, I heard Michael Jackson was a reflector, and this is why your birth time is very important. Many human design people who have looked up his birth time, they actually have his birth time wrong. He was born at night and not in the morning, same time, but he's actually a projector. But for instance, on that day, it's a 2 aura type day. So in the morning, it's a reflector. At night, it's projector. Yeah.
It is controversial. But it wouldn't be if we actually knew the right time, right?
Right. We have the right time.
Everything's controversial.
That's what makes life fun.
You're right. To finish it and figure it all out. And then he also says, I heard Rauha say both.
Yeah, so Rahu was the originator of this system. So he is somebody who received the voice, as it said, in Ibiza, Spain. And part of why we wrote the book, honestly, perfect segue, Facebook user, is that there is such a controversy, actually, with this man who originated this system. Because he was a very, he was a white man in the US, right, in the 80s, and was someone who gave like no fucks about what he said. And he even kind of coined himself as someone who was here to shock people into waking up. But as you can imagine, there can be, if that is the way that you operate as the person with the most privilege in this world, you can forget that compassion, empathy, and actually the humanity of people is something that's important. So there is a lot of controversy with him, and a lot of people sort of shy away, like people like BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, feel like sometimes we shy away from spiritual modalities because we feel like, well, I don't know, is this really for me? So it's part of why we decided to write this book and really include the experiences of BIPOC as a not just in spirituality, sometimes in the interest of self-actualization and self-realization, we can forget that we actually do live in a 3D reality that includes a system of oppression.
Well, and as soon as you tell me that he founded the religion, or the philosophies rather, in Ibiza, I think he was tripping and partying and, and saw God, and they had a chat. And then another comment, I think it's important that you are doing this work. Ra has a strong personality. And we're seeing that, across all spectrums, with white men having strong personalities, but that's a different show.
Honestly, it's not just white men, right? I think it's anybody who's in a position of power.
Good point.
Right?
Really good point.
And we, because all of us, I know I came to human design from a place of suffering, right? I was a mother that was like looking for answers, right? And human design was not my first stop or last stop, right? Like that's the fair thing. So we all come into healing, into spirituality from this place of wanting to heal and wanting to make ourselves whole. And in that, we can become vulnerable. because we see somebody who holds power, who seems like they have their shit together, or who, like, you know, people around them are seeking them, or they've written beautiful words, and we want to take it all in. And in wanting to take it all in, we sometimes give the power away, right? And so that's, and if they're not aware of their own power and the power dynamics, they take it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really big thing about, if it doesn't make you a more loving person, toss it. You know, we are here to grow and to be more loving to our neighbor. And if it's not making you more loving, I really stop saying better, because better is so vague. But to actually know yourself, love yourself, and which will enable you to love and have compassion for others. I think it should just be disregarded. So, you know, if anything does that for you, it should, you know, be your path. And if human design got you out of the hell of parenting, challenging children like I was, or like my son was, more power to it. Aycee, what did you get out of it?
Well, for me, growing up with two generator parents, I'm a projector, and being a Black woman in America, I've been taught to do the best, be the best, have the best, and there's no breaks for me. You know, I have to be better than everyone. I have to be smarter than. So finding human design, or human design finding me, when it did, I was someone who, because my parents are generators, they are people who go after things and go get it, and they're in response. So, like Asha said, generators' strategy is to respond and act. So my parents are responding to outside influences and then acting. For me, as a projector, I'm waiting for the invitation, waiting to be invited, waiting to be seen. And so that is a huge contradiction when you live with two people who are like, no, go out, get it, do what you have to do, make it happen. And then you're just pushing against so much, and you don't understand why. Always trying to make something happen, trying to do stuff. I've started so many businesses before knew I was a projector, and just really trying to go after things. And then when I found out I was a projector, it was kind of upsetting, because remember, I'm indoctrinated into this society of being a Black American person, where I have to do better. I have to have better, be better, go after things, be the smartest, all of that. And then the system is telling me, oh no, you have to just wait until somebody recognizes you. So it's actually, for me, very frustrating and sad. And I was actually kind of depressed. I'm like, I wasn't raised like that. I have to go out and do it. And then when I really started looking at all of the great things that had happened in my life previously, they were from invitations, whether that was a relationship, a job, friendships, where I wanted to live, it all was an invitation. And so that's when I really started thinking about, like, okay, maybe there's something to this that I can lean into, but how I really immerse myself in it, because there is a nuance being a Black or brown or indigenous person of color, that some of the lessons and teachings that I was finding online, they didn't apply to me because I was a Black mom. So I couldn't just sit around and wait for someone to offer me a job. I had to apply. I had to do so many things. So I had to learn the system and make it benefit for myself. And then that's how I started teaching it and using it and helping other people.
I went through such a range of emotions when you said that, like, oh my God, I couldn't do that. I don't have the patience. And then it was like, wow, the strength that you got from it in order to be more authentic in who you are. Applause, Aycee, applause. That is really cool. Yeah, I mean, living in the flow is such a challenge for me, because I am such a control freak and I don't have patience, even though I'm trying so hard to. So I really hope I'm not a projector, you said?
Yes, projector.
I really hope I'm not a projector.
Yes, she's a manifesting generator.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're a manifesting generator as well.
Okay. Well, after the show, I'm definitely going to have to do this, so I will let
Good.
you know.
I want to go back to something that you said, because Aycee's walk back to herself,
Mm-hmm.
it's not unlike many of us when we first find out about our human design type. Because of that piece that I shared about the conditioning, Aycee was conditioned by her generator parents. I was conditioned by a manifestor mother. Right? So all of us have, whether it's from our family, from society, from then we go out in the world and we're, doing the best we can based on what we know is the correct thing to do. Or, if we read Tony Robbins, then we're like, oh my God, like I just need a manifesting, what do they call it? Those collages, whatever. I don't know what, manifesting boards, whatever. I can't think of words.
Vision boards.
Yes.
Vision board, yes.
Vision board. All I need is a vision board. I just gotta like be on fire and go do the thing. And that's just not gonna work for many of us. So walking ourselves home to what actually is going to
My
work.
vision board, by the way.
Oh yeah, she's got a vision board. All right, but now
That's my background. So yeah, I mean, definitely, yeah. So yeah,
you're gonna bring it home with your design. That's what's gonna happen next. I predict.
Okay. Yeah. This is what is coming. So I love being pegged, you guys.
People are taking bets.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I can't wait. And that is the thing about all of us. I think it's a human condition where we just really want to learn more about ourselves and discover who we really are, because we know there is conditioning. Even if we're not conscious of it, we know that there is conditioning out there, whether it be religion, societal, educational, all of those things that want to put you into a box that most of us don't fit in. So anytime, I mean, one of the biggest things on the internet are those quizzes. And it was a huge issue a couple years ago where they said, look, these companies are hacking all of your information. And the majority of people said, that's okay. I got to learn about myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So, these types of tools that we can have to bring us more into the authentic self, and peer through the indoctrination, the box that society puts us in, can only help. So, I mean, it just makes me so curious.
Yeah, good. And you know what? One of the things what I sort of stuck with human design too is that not only did it help me raise two amazing young women, it also saved my marriage.
Oh, wow.
It also allowed me to build businesses that align with my own sustainable energy. And then when I think of it, I'm like, well, wow, what if every single person had this IKEA instructions, right? What if every single person had that, and then we also knew each other's instructions?
Mm-hmm. Like
Because
love languages.
then, what was that?
Like
love languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Aycee and I are in this partnership, right? And so we're in this partnership, and it works because like she knows what to ask me. I know I got to invite her. And there's this also like sensitivity, not from a, like, I have no idea if you have energy for this. I know that a projector is going to have waves, right? So, and I just, and I got to trust that because I'm a little motor, like I can keep going, but also I'm in this partnership with this person. So I'm going to wait. And I know that the timing's going to be right. And I know that as part of the partnership is listening also to her brilliance too. That's what allows the partnership to work, is the more that we hear what each other needs too.
Another big thing that this show has every week is honoring people, honoring others, as opposed to imposing what you want on them. Especially we see it, the need for it in the BIPOC as well as LGBTQ communities. And that's one thing that I'm really hearing here is that when you know these types of things, it makes it easier to honor that person, to not imply and say, okay, well, I need you to do this. Instead, it's, I know what you can do. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also keeps it as much as it is also about honoring somebody else, it also keeps me honest to myself, right?
Yeah. How? Because you know that about yourself?
Right. It's like, okay, so I'm a manifesting generator. Maybe I do have those control manifesting generator issues. And so it's an invitation for me to say, chill the fuck out. It's all
I knew that.
The timing is going to be divine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I might be a manifesting generator. I'm hearing.
Yeah, we think so. We definitely think so.
Aycee, I know that you have to leave early. Do you need to go now?
I have like 5 more minutes. Yes.
Okay. Well, if you only have 5 minutes, I do want to grab your information so everybody can reach out to you. We'll do a little thing in the interim. I want to, again, show their book. Go buy it. It's on Amazon. But what would you like to say? What are your final words, and where can people find you?
They can find us. Well, it's not up yet, but Human Design for Liberation. Please go there. Just hold it. Or you can go to Asha's website or my website or our Instagram channels. I would say the final thing is to be open when you read the book, because it has different perspectives. Like we said, this is geared towards BIPOC individuals who are want to come into the system or been afraid to come into human design, who are just unaware because of the stigmas, because of the teachings and the stories about the founder and about the community as a whole. So what we do is sort of position it for everyone who doesn't look like the norm to have an experience as well. This system is for you. It can help you. But this is why we also kind of address those issues as well. Like, hey, this is a problem, and here's why it is.
Awesome. I love that. And, anything that can show the BIPOC community in their essence, I just love to. Instead of gentrifying and white-defying it and all the crap that people of my skin color do. Aycee, I just absolutely loved talking to you, and thank you so much for being on board. Asha, so when throughout your day do you go, okay, this is where human design falls into, and is it an everyday thing for you? Is it a moment by moment?
Yes. At this point, yes. I'm going to tell you, I had a moment. I don't know if I remember when it was. I'm going to say 9 years ago, where I had already been, oh, she's gone. Bye, Aycee.
She waits quickly. She was wonderful. Thank you so much, Aycee.
It was amazing. I can't even believe how fast we wrote that book, by the way. So the first book that I wrote took me 10 years to write, and this book, we wrote it in months. We were so in such devotion to this project, and it was actually quite an easy process. And I do think it has to do with this, like, understanding the other person too, back to what I was saying earlier. But for me, with human design, so 9 years ago, I remember I had already been with human design probably about 12 years. So I was already in it. Like, I was already beginning to consult businesses and entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And I had this moment where somebody asked me to be the in-house human design person in their, like, I don't know, they had this like $1 million coaching platform. And I was like, my strategic mind was like, great idea. But I had the conversation with the person, and I remember saying, all right, I'm going to sort of remove myself from their auric field, because that's what we do, right? When we're in exchange and communication, we're really like connecting with each other energetically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I needed to remove myself from our energetic field. And my sacral said, And my mind was like, what? Like, this is actually a really good idea. And I had this moment, this crossroads, where I was like, wait a second, Asha, if you're going to be someone who teaches this, you better be living it. So I was like, all right, I guess I can listen to my sacral. And I would say that I was kicking and screaming for 2 weeks. And then finally my system was like, yep, that is the correct thing to do. And I was like, wow, that is what feels like when we actually honor our design and practice and embody it.
That's so interesting to me because I'm a smoker. Regretfully, I'm ashamed of it. But one of the reasons why I keep smoking is because I need those breaks away from people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've wondered, it's almost like a recharge. I've also had amazing experiences when I set myself away talking to other people. I've met people. It's just been a really good thing. But I so need to get away. Great example, I interviewed with a cult a couple years ago. They wanted to hire me. And while I was on the phone call with them or the Zoom, I was all in it. Not till I checked myself out and went, whoa, this is crazy. Did I take that time for myself and step out, like you said, to take that energy away? Did I realize, oh my God, this is absolutely insane? And I wondered why that was. I can't wait to get into this tonight.
Yeah, and we all need to do that, right? We all need to do that because part of the beauty of life is that we get to be with each other, which is beautiful. And it's so creative and so fun. And also, you are a separate entity. Then, even though we're in this collaboration and life happens in the ecosystem, I also am my own human.
Yeah.
I am my own system. And it's valuable for me to actually make decisions and collaborate and have fun with somebody else when I know what my truth is.
Very true. Yeah. And that's where the authenticity comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Well, everybody has been saying, or our one Facebook user, which is David Tenson. David, I'm so glad you got so much out of this show. So, any next steps? What do you guys have going on? How are you pushing this book? What type of things do you see in your guys' future, or what does human design tell you that's going to happen?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that, this conversation probably goes beyond human design. We see human design as a tool. Certainly both Aycee and I don't see it as the end all be all, but we think it's a very powerful, potent tool. And part of what, we've been in devotion to this work for decades, and we will continue to be in devotion. And we just felt like that this specific part, this voice of incorporating that we do live in a system that oppresses certain people, and also the potential that lives inside of us, inside our hearts and inside our soul. It like beckons that the human experience be acknowledged, but also that we not forget that we do have this like we are intended to live heaven on earth, to put it in those terms. We are intended to receive God or goddesses or nature or universe's good pleasure. Like, we are meant for that. That is what we are built for. It just happens that you're built differently than me. And as we walk through this deconditioning and reconditioning to our true self, then we discover what that is. So, Aycee and I, part of what we want to do is we want as many people to read this book, right? And we want it to be like one of those books that if you know someone that needs to read the thing, go and send it to them. Just spread the good news about there is a tool that can help so many of us. And the sort of follow up to the book is that we'd like to be able to work with organizations. Obviously they'd have to be pretty open to using something as esoteric as human design, but bringing both of those elements of business that is liberated and using it from a human design roadmap.
Yeah, interesting, because again, especially in corporations or businesses, the more you know about your coworkers or the people you're dealing with, there's going to be more peace. There's going to be more understanding. There's going to be more compassion. It's just another arm of knowledge is power.
Yeah, and especially with business, we unfortunately have one playbook with it. The extractive one. And yeah. For the most
I'm not in corporate America anymore.
But you know what? Even when we're not in corporate America, that is how we learn about commerce, right? Yeah. And so even though we can be really good people and really compassionate people, that is still the playbook that we perpetuate. And so the liberation of the individual and the liberation of the communities, it is what allows for something different to emerge, like something that is honoring of each other's humanity and each other's, flourishing too.
I love that. It's the liberation. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's show the book again. And what are your final thoughts, and where can people find you? Oh, wait a minute. I also have a banner. Hold on.
Oh, you do?
There we go.
So fun. Thank you for being our first interview to talk about. We're so happy. We're just so happy. I think that the final thoughts that I would have is a little bit of what Aycee said of read it with an open mind. It doesn't, honestly, whether you are white, Black, Indigenous, person of color, read it with an open mind, because my sense is that some parts may feel a little edgy.
Okay.
And some parts may feel like a big sigh of relief, right?
I think everything should be taken into that context. Everything as far as learning, we need to be open-minded, and if it resonates, then hold on to it.
Yeah, and I love that. I always say that it's like compost what doesn't feel right.
Right.
Because maybe it's just like right now is not the time for that. Like really receive the parts that feel like they add to your life, Exactly. And if there are pieces that you need to shed from yourself, seek people who are going to hold that kind of space for you. Because I think that that's like the most the most compassionate thing to do with ourselves. Yeah.
So I know that in healing, sometimes the things that rub us wrong actually reveal a sort. Is that the same thing with human design? Or is it really, if it rubs us the wrong way, then like you said, compost it? I love that.
I mean, human design's pretty neutral.
Okay.
Because it is more about mechanics.
Okay.
I think the part that maybe can rub people the wrong way is the part that, where we challenge each other in the book. Like we challenge each other. There was one of the interviews was with a neurodivergent person who learned not like Jungian psychology, but psychology from a lens of Black liberation. In this interview, I like both Aycee and I were like, huh. And And as we were talking to the editors, I remember saying, I was like, I think that what we all have to understand is that what a privilege it is for us to be able to sit at the feet of someone who has this lens.
Yeah.
Understand how they perceive some of the pieces in human design that maybe for many of us we don't think twice about, because it's like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal.
Mm.
Because of the lens, because of the positionality that this human has in the world. The way that they see the world is actually medicine and education for us. And
That's why I do the show.
What's that?
That's why I do this show, to get all of this wisdom, and so everybody can come and bring their medicine here.
Yeah. And I do, part of what I love too is that this idea that when the person that is oppressed the most in this world, in our world, is the most liberated, we all get to be free.
Yes, I love that the most. What a beautiful conversation. And I want to end this early because I want to go do my chart. So for you guys out there, do it. Go research it. Tell me what it is. Put it in the comments. Tell me who you are. Tell me what you've learned. And thank you so much for being a part of this show. Okay, final comments, Asha. And again, where can people find you?
Thank you. Instagram is great. Asha is now, and Aycee is Aycee Brown on Instagram. And my website is ashaisnow.com, and Aycee is aceebrown.com.
All of that information is on the Facebook posts. If you click their image, they have all of their links and everything on there. Asha, I'm going to send you backstage while I close the show. And again, thank you so much. I am so intrigued.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you. Go buy their book. Go learn about yourself. I know you want to. Support them because they deserve it. And you might be able to change your life when you find out something more about you or about your neighbor. Next week and the week after and the week after that, we are having authors on for almost all of April. They are the specialists in that field, and so we are going to have them come on, discuss their books, and give us all kinds of wisdom. So look forward to that, and I will see you next week. We have one more comment. Oh, it's very technical at its base, but all of this stuff is, you'll figure it out. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for welcoming us into your homes, and as always, walk in love. Mwah! See you next week.